Welcome to Architects of Latino Success, the podcast that celebrates the powerful leaders who are shaping the future of the Latino community in business. I'm your host, Joe Castillo, and today I'm thrilled to introduce a guest who has been a true inspiration to me, Juan Martinez, broker-owner of Century 21 Americana. With an extraordinary career that includes over 4,000 closed transactions and 16 million in commissions, Juan has redefined what success looks like in the real estate industry. His relentless drive and no-nonsense approach have earned him top recognition, but beyond the accolades, it's his commitment to the Latino community that truly sets him apart. Whether through his leadership roles within NAHREP or his tireless efforts in coaching the next generation of real estate agents, Juan is determined to empower Latinos to claim their rightful seat at the table. His impact has been felt across the industry, and today, he's here to share his journey, insights, and advice for all of us looking to make a difference. Ready to get started? Vamos.
Juan, thank you for joining the podcast, Architects of Latino Success. I appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you. Happy to be here, my friend.
Yeah, no, of course. You know, I view you as many as one of the great leaders of NAHREP, and so having you here and being able to have this conversation with you is special. And so I do appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
We're going to get started with just a brief background introduction for people of like how you got involved in real estate and what drew you to NAHREP.
Well, we're a family grocery business for 50 years here in Las Vegas. I'm born and raised here. My family came from Cuba here in the early 60s. And then I think at the age of 25, 26, I did it for 10 years in the grocery business. And then I transitioned to real estate. In real estate, it's from 2001 to 2011, I sold over 4,000 homes. I was making about $1.5 to $2 million a year back then, which was great money.
That's that.
And keeping most of it. And my best year was 584 transactions in 2011. And then at the end of 2011, I said, what's the next level? And so I spoke to my two great mentors, Gary Acosta and Mike Ferry. And the decision was let's build a brokerage that we teach, coach, and train others to list and sell in high volume. So I've been in that mission for the last 12 years, 450 agents and growing, and looking forward to the future.
That's amazing. It's a great success story. Where within that did NAHREP come into play?
So NAHREP came into play in 2000. So I went to a few events in 05, 06. Then the recession hit early 2008. I met at one of the events, actually in 2007, a good friend named Alex Garza. Mm-hmm. And so we just happened to become friends from one event. And then in March, he came to me and says, hey, I'm president now of the local chapter, and would you join me on the board? And I was very, very cautious of my time.
Sure.
Very fanatical of time management. And but the Latino community was really good to me for all those years. Lots of transactions, a lot of money, making millions. And so I said, you know what, this is my contribution. So I got on the board, and the rest is history.
So if we take a step back and go back to how you mentioned you started, your family started with the grocery store with the
1965.
1965. Is that something where your folks were entrepreneurs back in Cuba, or where did that come from? Where did this Juan Martinez come from?
Well, I don't know. I just learned early on. You know, my dad worked extremely hard. He worked in the hotels. He also worked in at the store. So doing trips to California. Same thing with my grandfather. So I don't know, but I kind of was built into that. And so my whole DNA is just hard work. So I grind. So in the grocery business, you got to work 6-7 days a week. You got to work the holidays. You're just working 14 hours, 15 hours. And so when I transitioned into real estate, I wanted to take over the grocery business of the family. So I said, Pops, you know, I have to take over. Too much competition is moving in from California. And so either you let me take over or I had to go create my own success. And he said, no. You know, he said,
he wasn't ready.
No, he said, vete pa carajo. And so I left, and that's when I was forced into the real estate. I don't know why I picked it, but I did. And then there, it was easy. One, I had a great system to follow, which was the Mike Ferry system. I've been in coaching with Mike Ferry for 25 years. I mean, nonstop. He's personally been coaching me for the last 18 or 17 years. And so you have a great system. And then I had the work ethic. The work ethic was work 6-7 days a week. So when I go into real estate, I'm following a system. I'm working from 7-8 in the morning till really 10 o'clock at night. And I was doing that 7 days a week for a lot of years. But in 10 years, I made over $16 million in that 10-year span. So hard work, I have a slogan or, an affirmation, hard work, ... more money. And that's our affirmation at Century 21 Americana. Yeah. So that's it. It is putting the work in. It's the desire to, a desire to succeed. So I always tell all of our folks, especially the newer folks that come into the company, 2 ingredients. 1, a desire to succeed. Okay. A strong burning desire to succeed. And then number 2, the work ethic to back it up, right? Willing to put the grit, the hard work in order to make the big money.
How do you do you discuss fear at all, or overcoming fear when it's becoming about being an entrepreneur and what have you when it comes to this industry of real estate that we all love here? Like, how do you talk to people about that?
I don't really have any fears. There's risks that I take. The bigger and the more responsibilities, and there's bigger risks. Like, you want big rewards, so you got to take the bigger risk.
Right.
I think everybody is motivated a little bit differently. Some people are very motivated by fear. Some people are motivated by money. Some are motivated by stability. They just want a lot of stability. And then the last one is they are motivated by recognition, right? And so recognition is more important than anything else. And so once you learn this from our salespeople, if we can work, we set goals based off of, what motivates them, then you usually have a higher chance of success.
Was that something that you knew right away when you transitioned from being this hard-charging, independent realtor to building an office, or is that something that you learned over time? Is learning that motivate people?
Yeah. So, well, I don't know about that, but for me, there was different motivations in the different stages of listing and selling my first 10 years. I had certain motivations in the beginning. Sometimes it's the kids, or it's whatever the case might be. And then that evolves with time, right? My kids are all grown up and they're very successful and they do well. And so those aren't the deep motivations today, right? So it was in my DNA, but I leverage what motivates me. I'm not a big motivational guy, and I don't like going to big motivational events. I just work, put my head down, focus. I have the ability to think and plan and, set business plans and stuff like that.
Well, thank you for that. So if we bring it back to NAHREP and your time at NAHREP, you were a national president of NAHREP. You were one of the instrumental people in starting the NAHREP Top 250, which has been a great success for NAHREP and its growth. So I was just wondering if you could share some of your highlights or challenges that you faced as a leader within NAHREP, and just within your role.
I had a lot of fun with NAHREP. So 2009, I became the president of the local chapter, and this is a time that was very difficult in a heavy recession, and we were having 500, 1,000, attendee events, and took the membership to over 1,000. It was doing big things, and that's where Being Gary connected, and I got pulled onto the national board. I had a lot of fun locally, and I learned a lot about true leadership. And then moving to the national board, I learned a lot. I'm still learning today. I'm a board advisor, and I became national president, I think 2013, 12, 13, 14. But I've been learning, and then the exposure of the organization. When I say exposure to the best leaders, exposure to all the heavy hitters across the country. There's just been a path of fun. If I think of a lot of big names that were national presidents, a lot of them, I went out there and recruited them, and then they went out and have become very successful, in the industry. That's kind of fun. So I've had a lot of fun with the organization and a lot of success stories.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that you're not a big fan of motivating, where I think most people, when they think of a leader, they're expecting that leader to motivate them. So, it's interesting to me if you can explain a little bit further about how do you approach leadership as, the owner of this brokerage, of the property management, of the investment firm, of the mortgage brokers that you have, all these things that you have. How do you approach leadership, and what have you learned from those roles?
So what have I learned? I think I'm evolving. I think I'm a student of the industry. I think that it is. I'm not even scratching the surface. I have a long ways to go, and
I think that would surprise people, because I think people look at you and be like, man, that's a finished product.
yeah,
But
it's not. It's always evolving, and there's so much for me to do in the industry, and I'm excited over the next 10 or 20 years. But I don't think we're not doing enough.
are you constantly looking for mentors, or do you feel like you have the ones that you need, or how do you look at that?
Yeah. I have two great mentors, Gary Acosta, Mike Ferry, and I'm not looking for other mentors.
Someone raising their hand.
Yeah. I think that you find the best in the industry, whatever it is that you're trying to do, whatever it is, whether it's listing, selling, it's building a brokerage, it's building a team, it's building a property management company. It doesn't matter. Find the very best in the industry. In many cases, you're going to find them within the NAHREP world. See what they're doing, learn from them, there's so many big players and there's so much to learn. So that exposure within the organization, that is huge opportunity, right? And sometimes we get stuck in our bubble. We're in our office, we're in our home office, and we have no exposure to the world. So we're happy doing the 10 or 20 deals a year, and we're never exposed to bigger things. And I think exposure is something that has been incredible within, let's just say, the Mike Ferry organization, and within the NAHREP world. The opportunities that have been there, the exposure to great people like you, is huge.
You touched on time management a little bit, and so, that's a struggle for me. Like, so how do you do that? Like, do you actually set aside time to have that mentorship, or to mentor others, or to network? I mean, instead of just focusing strictly on the business.
Well, part of our business is coaching, training others to be successful, right? It's been our mission for the last 12 years, to develop professional, productive, profitable salespeople. That's our mission. And so we've been doing it just as, the organization was done for us, and how the organization, the organization, NAHREP, has an incredible coaching platform to help leaders within their local markets, become very productive presidents and do very well. But by the way, you'd mentioned some of the things that proud of in regards to the organization, and great things have happened. The NAHREP Top 250, the whole coaching platform. I started back as, I think, 2009 or 10, maybe 11. And then Armando has taken off for the last 12 years, running that, which is absolutely incredible. Daisy's done an amazing job. But there's a whole bunch of products that NAHREP has today that are still effective 12, 13 years later. And so being part of that whole, being a part of that has been absolutely wonderful.
So Juan, you mentioned to me how at the beginning your motivation was your family, your children, to develop and to grow for them. But that's changed. And so what is your motivation now? How do you stay motivated to continue growing professionally and personally?
That's a tough question. And I would say this, that I think that I created habits over the last 25 years to constantly improve, constantly look at people that are doing more. And so it isn't a motivational thing. So I share this sometimes with family or close friends, is that whether I have a net worth today of 15 or 20 million, or I have a net worth of 200 million, my lifestyle doesn't change. My routine doesn't change, meaning my home, my vehicles, I could stop working today and nothing would change. So it's really, to me, a number, and it's a number that, so growing that number to a bigger number is really, I feel, is like what I'm doing, and it's just making that number bigger. So at the end, a number, whatever it is, let's say maybe $1 billion, and we get there, nothing has really changed. So it's almost a game of numbers, and it's habits that I have created to pursue more and more. And so I don't think it's a motivational thing. It's just how I'm wired.
You're a goal setter.
Yeah, and it's a visionary. It's working on that vision and getting excited about that vision and seeing something bigger, because the influence of somebody within the organization, a CEO that runs some, big whatever, real estate company or trade organization, whatever. And so you see that, like, Gary's a big influence on me. Gary doesn't have to do anything, but you see he's a true visionary, and he's got this vision, whether it was Latitude or Alonset today, and the things that he wants to do, just by being around him. The influence that, says, okay, I have to step it up and I have to think bigger, right? And so as I do that, it isn't, it's how I'm wired as a visionary, and always looking to do bigger things. Well, maybe it's the challenge. I don't know.
Sure. But when I look at you, I look at Gary and others, you are big goal setters.
Yeah.
And that's great. And it's something that I strive to do, would be better at. But I know people can get overwhelmed by setting big goals. Like, what do you do?
I think you just get immune to operating at a bigger level.
But do you set like steps, goals to get to the bigger goal? Like, how do you stay, in the moment for that big goal?
Well, I think you're, keep it stupid simple, right? So we have a 10-year goal that we have for the company, for the enterprise. We have a 10-year goal. We have a 5-year plan. So 10-year goal is just a statement. A 5-year business plan is simple, 8 or 10 bullet points.
Got it.
Okay, then we bring it down to a year, and that year says, here's 8 or 10 metrics, yes, more detailed, what we're going to do, revenue, numbers, all the things that we need. Okay, then we have a big scorecard, and so we take that annual to meeting every quarter, the leadership team. We say, are we on track, off track, on track, whatever, and then we bring it down to weekly. And so we break down those annual goals into quarterly, then weekly. So weekly, we have a scorecard, probably 100 different metrics for all the different departments, maybe 200 metrics. And then with the leadership team, we got 15 or 20 metrics, and we're holding each department accountable, and we go through it. I have a strong operator who runs the company, actually for each different company. And so it's people, it's processes to make sure that everything is moving forward.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So you've accomplished so much, and you still got a lot to go, obviously, with your goal setting in mind. If we were to try and put this all in a book, what would the title be, and what would the central thing that people would take away from it?
I would say at some point I will write a book, right? And it's probably going to be on the fundamentals of listing and selling real estate, right? So the true fundamentals, and I think the fundamentals, people have gone away from the fundamentals. I think in the world today of social media and so many others, it's the path of least resistance. I see this where agents come into the business and they go to the path of least resistance, or they think that they could stay home and not be suited up and go into work, right? And so that our industry is like that. Yesterday I heard that 70% of the real estate agents of NAR did do one transaction in 2024. So the fundamentals of listing and selling real estate, right? So it's basically my biography of that 10 years, 2001 to 2011, the 4,000 transactions, how I did it, and the process. And I think that if I was still a team today, 12 years later, I think we would be doing 1,000 plus, as a team, and doing maybe 10 or $15 million as a team. But the book would be on the fundamentals, and the book would be basically it is how to lead generate, how to spend 80-90% of your day in lead generation, how to do lead follow-up, step by step, how to present to buyers, how to present to sellers, how to pre-qualify sellers, how to pre-qualify buyers for motivation, not for a loan, and go through the whole process from A to Z, and then how to do it in volume. How do you list 1, 2, 300, 400 properties a year as a real estate agent? And it can be done, and it's being done all over North America from the great agents. And so that probably would be the fundamentals. You got to do the fundamentals first, just like the great coaches of basketball and, the great coaches of football and John Wooden and many, many others, right? What did they do? They were masters of the fundamentals. They're masters of basics, right?
Yeah. Got to have a strong foundation.
That's right. And if we could get agents to that, we could see the production grow in a big way.
Well, I'd be the first to buy that book if you wrote it. When you read it. So last question. What belief or habit do you hold that people consider unconventional that has made the biggest difference in your success?
I would say that early on, right from the get-go, I was strong at time management, managing every minute of my day. So from the moment I come in, and believe it or not, I use simple 3x5 cards. And if you told me, Joe, today you want to make $1 million listing and selling real estate, all I have to do is do the numbers, know your numbers for your market and for you, how many contacts it takes to get a listing. And I could create a schedule. I'm going to say, Joe, you just got to follow this in a specific schedule. Do not deviate. You get 10-minute breaks per hour and do exactly this. And then you'll make the $1 million, right? So my strength all these years was simply time management, right? So if you stood by me on a Tuesday morning, at 7:30 at night, you're going to be like, I cannot believe what you just did today. And nobody knows what I do, but it is by the minute. Right? By the book. So my greatest strength, I would say, in listing and selling and building a real estate team and really building what we have built today is my time management skills.
Yeah, no, I love that. And obviously that'll be a big part of your book, time management. I know it's one of the biggest issues for most people that are entrepreneurs and don't have necessarily a boss on top of them.
That's right. That's the biggest problem in the industry.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Juan. Thank you so much for sharing. For being open and for being part of this podcast.
You asked me, Joe, before we wrap this up, you asked me earlier, you asked me earlier about leader. What is a leader, right? And for the leaders that come up within the chapters and the future leaders, right? And so I think in the for-profit world, I could run a team and do 200, 300, 400 deals and run a small dictatorship. And sometimes you got to do that, right?
Sure.
But what NAHREP taught me in the nonprofit world is really being a true leader. And a true leader is taking a lot of great producers. You have everybody on a board and you're leading entrepreneurs and getting them to go out there and do the work. And so I had to learn a lot in the NAHREP system early on is to build a great board, to build a great chapter, to be able to move up in leadership was to get other leaders to take action. And that leadership is a little bit different. And that leadership is you learn traits of recognizing and being grateful and appreciative, right? So to answer your leadership question off the cameras earlier is this. It is one, Joe Castillo, because you're making it about everybody else. That's why you're such a successful leader. But you have run an incredible brokerage for many, many years. And you probably don't get recognized enough for that. So I want to say thank you for all the great work, all the successful agents you have. And you've had, in all the Latino brokerages in the country, the highest per person production per agent, meaning that your agents are more successful in transactions than any other Latino brokerage in the country, right? That's a major, major deal. And that shows that you're an incredible leader, not only within your community, but across the country, and you're not recognized enough. So thank you for what you have done, and thank you for inspiring. And then all the contributions that you have done, moving up in the Chicago chapter, all the way up to the national board, and all the work that you have done. So we're grateful for all your work, and you're an incredible leader.
Juan, thank you. I appreciate that.
And that, for our folks here that are moving up, true leadership is making it about others and recognizing others and sharing with everybody the great things that special people like Joe have done.
Thank you for being a mentor of mine and for being that that leader that we can all look up to within NAHREP.
Thank you, Joe.
Big call.